our process too, when we do come into that anxiety and that like, there's like so many people asleep, sheeple and all that stuff. But it's like, okay, be the Jedi, see that there's different levels of consciousness activating. And some people are just gonna sleep right through it. Some
Right.
people, they just are. And
Yep.
and that's okay. That is okay. You know, because it only takes a few of us. This is what the sages, the ancients say, is that it doesn't take actually all those millions. I mean, it would is wonderful, you know, if that's what happens, but that it only takes a small amount of us to really hold that light and that knowing that you're speaking of, that oneness with creator, that unity consciousness, to create that unified shift for the greater whole, whether they're ready or not, or to the.
All right, we're going to do a round two here. If Tuesday wants to come on here. Finish up, go through some last final messages, and go from there. Yeah, I should put my hat on. All right, here she is. What up?
All right, we're back.
There
We're
you
back.
are. All
So
right.
I was just saying that, you know, the ancients say it doesn't take a lot of us to be able to help to create the correct conditions for that shift to happen for the greater whole and for the highest good. And I think there is that level of the highest good. You know, if we get just for a moment into that spiritual realm of, you know, sort of feeling like people need to hurry up and get with the program, that there is that grace of like everyone's where they need to be. Like that lady that I was telling you about, you know, it ends up, well, she had a very horrible experience and was raped and all sorts of stuff. And so she's still dealing with levels of trauma in her life that are so huge that for her to even think that 5G and the government's trying to kill us and whatever, she's like, I can't handle the truth. You know, it's like, it's just too much for her. And so and who knows what the neighbors are going through or what they've either been conditioned to believe through religious or traditional cultural doctrines or whatever it may be, or just the media. And so there is, I trust, you know, that divine timing and that we'll all find our perfect way to fit in. But again, it doesn't take, and I feel that resonates with me as a truth that it doesn't, we don't have to like try to get, you know, every single person on the planet on board, because like you were saying, the truth is we all are that one. And I think underneath all the clouds that can cover the realization of unity, we know it intuitively because it is the truth. And I was referring to April 4th, there was all sorts of global unification meditations going on that whole day. And I participated in the morning and the evening. And I remember loads of folks posting the next day that the Schumann resonance had actually reset itself and was back to its norm, which I think helped me. Is it
Eight,
7.58 or something
eight,
around there?
7.83, unless it's gone up.
Okay, which is just really, is it the electrical, is it the magnetic electrical sort of heartbeat of this planet that helps our bodies, being a part of that earth, stay healthy, grounded, whole, stay us, help us maintain being our little own sort of generators of that life force ourself? Would that be kind of correct?
Exactly. It's a natural frequency of the earth, right? It's a subtle electrical current. Subtle electrical currents work well with the human body. So like that's why the earthing is always good, and the radionics is good, and being around trees and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just can create such a beautiful shift. I know, you know, mental, emotional stress. And if you really unconsciously, on purpose, just take that time to do, again, these rudimentary things, and it can sound cheesy if you're coming from, well, I got to work and make the money and pay the bills, and I just need to, you know, get from A to B to A to B, and you don't take that time to really nourish spirit, connect with this body of this planet, which is really, isn't the earth just full of crystals with this amazing, you know, galactic technology that holds so much wisdom? But unless we do take that time to ground, to connect, to take the shoes off, there's a big vortex where I live, and I take the shoes off. I lay on, I call her Mama Rock. I just lay on her and hang out and breathe and connect with the mountains. And you know, that's like, forget about it. That can, That's like taking a yoga class for yogis who are beginning and they do like one yoga class and they're really like sincerely into it. Like that will carry them for the whole week and their whole world will change because they're used to being in fight or flight, stress mode. And then they breathe just consciously a little deeper than they would for their whole week for 60 or 90 minutes. And that shift chemically that happens neurologically, psychologically, energetically will carry them. And it's the same thing I feel with nature. Even if you can only get for a little bit, but to do it on purpose and to breathe consciously and consciously connect, like she's just got so much love for us and so much grounding and healing. But so the Schumann resonance, I was aware as well, seeing people post that when the 5G was going up, and I know there's been some posts about people just ripping those things down and burning them up as well. I'm sure you've seen that stuff. But that when those 5G towers were activated, that the Schumann was going way off the charts and into an unnatural level of its, I don't even know what to call it, of its frequency, of its spin state.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
No, that's, I don't really know about that, about what it did to the Schumann resonance or anything like that. But, you know, I think, yeah, we're going to have to not take them down physically because, the police will probably arrest us for that. But people are doing that for, in areas. So I just don't want to do anything that invites them to use martial law as an excuse because that's what they're waiting for. So I'm trying to do everything in my power to think how we can do this peacefully and tactically. So I like that you do those meditations. That's awesome. And but like someone commented, the sad fact is people watch the news, they think it's the truth, and that's all that matters in their world. And anyone else is fake news or conspiracy nut job. So we can ground ourselves and get our frequency raised, but something tells me that we're only as good as our neighbors. If our neighbors are okay with martial law, then we're going to have to be as well. I don't know. It's, there's a very metaphysical component to this that tells me that we're going to be okay and spiritual aspect, but there's a part of me that's really concerned as well because of the state of inertia people are in.
Yeah.
There's a researcher named Deborah Tavares who I have meetings with, and her husband I was talking with one day, and I said, "What do you think, Lou? Do we have any shot here?" He's like, "I don't think so. I think the state of inertia is basically, people are set in their ways. Is too great to overcome." So there's also another component that's been introduced to me about the creator. And my partner Sarah is not a practicing Jehovah's Witness, but she kind of grew up that way. And so I've been reading a lot of Bible lately. I grew up Catholic, but I always just wanted to play baseball, not like read the Bible. I just like wanted to be outside, like, whatever, it's boring. But there's a certain component of me that thinks that this shit's under control to a certain extent where we don't have to try to save everyone. We just have to do our best. And when the time is right, the creator will act. So there's a lot of different layers to where I'm at. And I'm just trying to take it all in and continue to do what I can in my power to be an example of how we can overcome this, to look at strategizing rationally, to look at the science, and to focus on solutions. But there is a part that's spiritually calling to me that says, you don't need to try to figure this whole thing out and play Superman because that's not what you're capable of doing. You can only do so much.
And what a relief that must be to get that download.
It's a relief, but
right?
then you have times when you get smacked in the face with reality, and you see that that your neighborhood is on a completely different page. they're watching the news, which is just lies and deception. They're not on the same pages that you're on. They're not coming across the same information. So it's just, I'm sure I'm sure that a lot of people know what I'm going through because they're going through the same thing. Is that you get layers of this, that you feel like there's hope. You don't have to try to do everything. All you have to do is just do everything in your power. There's good days, there's bad days, and just trying to stay centered and balanced and not be too up or too down, and just do what I can, you know. But there's really like some crazy, scary stuff coming our way, and I hope people will share this David Icke interview, because you can call him a gatekeeper, you can call him a shill, but the man has been saying for 30 years now stuff that is happening. So I've seen him as credible for a long time. He looks like a reptilian to me, um, but he's coming from a place of truth, um, and so I think we need to listen to him, share that message. And this Dr. Shiva, I just shared a couple videos of him. You know, I don't, he's kind of new on the scene, but he speaks a lot of truth as well. And he's exposing Fauci and this big pharma conglomerate, the Bill and Melinda Gates and Rockefeller Foundation, and all these foundations that people are being brainwashed to think are humanitarians and philanthropists. You know, you ask an everyday person on the street, they'll probably tell you that Bill Gates is a philanthropist. Oh, doesn't he helps those kids in India and Africa with vaccines? And that's a whole other topic, is the vaccines. People, how brainwashed people have been seen to see them as legitimate medicine, and the lack of knowledge on the immune system and what real health is and naturopathy. And it is startling that people really think they need to get vaccines to be healthy, rather than focusing on putting the right stuff in your body. And like we've been talking about, getting sun and being happy and exercising and moving the limb. Like I did a video on our public health officer for our county, basically ordering us what we can do. Stay at home. This is essential. This isn't. Do this. Do that. It felt like being ordered around by a military commander.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I was the public health officer, I would say, listen, guys, something's going on. You need to get your immune system right. You need to get your body right. You need to get your diet right. You need to drink clean water, distilled water, whatever works for you. But distilled works for me. And then I add oral liquid gold.
I saw that on your website.
Yeah, I recommend everyone get, oro and just put it in their liquids. It's volcanic minerals. A lot of us are mineral depleted because of the soil and stuff like that. So it helps to have a little bit extra minerals, here and there. But there's just such a lack of awareness on what real health is. And I'm not an expert on what real health is, but I think that if it's pretty easy. The Creator has given us the fruits and the vegetables, and we just need to clean the water, and we need to be happy and jump around and act like kids and exercise, get in the sun. It's not rocket science.
It's not. And isn't it interesting though? And there's so many things that you spoke on that I want to tap in before we continue, because again, but isn't it just the perfect situation? Because those rudimentary components that you're talking about, under these current conditions that are being conditioned through the collective grid matrix, people's spirits are down. You know what I mean? To be able to play and to laugh, and to, even people are afraid to go outside. I see people driving in their cars. They're alone in their cars wearing a mask. And I'm going, oh, shit. Oh, Lordy Lord. But just to come back, okay, so there's a few things I want to talk about the spiritual component, because as well, I also have this just divine, and honestly, what I'm going to invite you, this might be cheeky, but all of us, is to say nope to hope. Fuck hope. Because we need to go beyond that into pure faith that has no reason, that has no proof, that is beyond the mind, the logical sense of what makes sense. And that, I feel, is this bridgeway that allows Creator, the passage, to come in and create those happenstance miracles that are revealed in the now moment, that are not, like you're saying, like, there's only so much we can do our truth and be that genuinely and authentically. But there is this divine force that I know and I trust God's plan, that there is a divine presence that will and can intervene to create the correct conditions. I mean, if this whole place is supposed to blow up and that's just what we've all agreed on some karmic level or something, then, you know, blessings and we'll see you when we see you. But if there is this chance of like that this is a cosmic shift of consciousness and there is this reality that we can collectively create a more coherent, stable, you know, grounded, loving place to be with one another on this planet and generate love and unity with one another, that, and if that's what's really this is all about, that there's this purge that gets to happen first where all these dark stories are revealed, because we know this rabbit hole, it goes on and on and on, but where all this stuff is revealed so that the folks that are, you know, plugged into the mainstream eventually will get it. Like a friend said to me, she was like, you know, we might have to go so freaking Orwellian until like people that don't get it, that don't see, are finally like going like, okay, wait, this is weird. Like it might have to get to that point. We don't know. But for those of us who know that there is this chance for this shift to be a positive thing, let us not be afraid, because let us keep that faith rooted in that oneness and that unity that's already here, and let us keep grounding that now moment, which is really the fourth dimensional consciousness, the Christ consciousness in the heart space, to allow that frequency to channel through us. And it's not something we can control, but to create the correct conditions. So I did want to say that I feel there is a divine presence, that when it is a divine appointment, whatever needs to happen will happen for the highest good and for one and all. Now, speaking on another level, tapping on something you spoke of, you know, I was in line at Trader Joe's, and it's being careful what we get used to. There's part of the conversation that's now happening in the 3D, I call it, that's saying like, oh, this is the new normal. We're going to Zoom for happy hour, do this, and like everything is, you know, I'm afraid to go outside, wear the mask, the gloves. This is the new normal. And I'm thinking like, let's be careful what we're in agreement with. And so I'm standing in line, you know, at Trader Joe's now out here. I live out in the Coachella Valley in California. And out here, you know, we have to stand in line and 6 feet apart to get into Trader Joe's. They only let in 20 people at a time and this sort of thing. So I'm doing the line thing. I'm standing there, and two ladies in front of me. Oh, this was before they had us stand 6 feet apart, where you were able to kind of be a little closer. And I'm behind these ladies, and one says to the other one, well, this isn't too bad. And I'm going like, oh boy, here we go. And then we're inside, and I brush past these ladies again, and the other lady says to the other one, like, because there's nobody in the store, and we can all take our time and shop. She says to her, I could get used to this. And I was like, okay. And like I posted that day, I was like, let's be mindful. And I posted the long line wrapping around the corner from the traders. I was like, let's be mindful what we're allowing to be this new normal, or what we're in agreement to, because this is so subtle, the way this stuff works. And then we just slowly, not we, but those that are under that paradigm of letting others think for them and guide them, you know, we get used to this isolation and this new way of doing things. Okay, but here's the crux. So then last week I'm there, and you know, they're spraying down the handles and everything for the people before they take their little carts in. So I get up to the front of the line, and I noticed that what he's doing is he's using that, whatever that spray stuff is that they're spraying down the carts with. He's spraying, people are holding out their hands, he's spraying them like this. And I'm going, what? Back in LA, I love working out, right? I love working out. I love going to the gym. And I remember in LA, I'm at the gym, and it was my first time there, and it's like, oh, you're supposed to spray if you get all sweaty on the stuff. Okay, spray the thing down, fine. But I get the spray, and I'm real like, what is this stuff? I took a picture of the ingredients. It's all carcinogenic, pesticide stuff in that. And sure, I'm sure it kills whatever germs. But this, I don't want this on my hand. And so anyway, this guy's spraying people front and back hands, and it's my turn. And I get up there, and he's like, you ready? And I was like, is this mandatory? Is this by management that we have to do this now to enter the store? And he goes, well, it should be. And I was like, And I was like, no. Are you making this up? Or is this something that your manager is actually enforcing? I really want to know. And then so he started to get defensive. And he's like, you should spray up the corona. And I was like, I want to know what the ingredients is in that stuff before you spray me with it, of course. And he's like, well, our management would never do anything deliberately to harm. And I was like, well, maybe not deliberately, but there's an unawareness factor. And I was like, do you know what the ingredients are? And he's like, I'm sure it's perfectly safe. And I was like, well, no, thank you. I'm going to just go right in. And but that's what I'm saying is that people are lining up and getting their hands sprayed and like without even
Yeah.
thinking about it. So there is that interesting aspect of
And that,
unconscious
yeah,
conformity.
sorry. That is the same, that is the same mindset that people will use with mandatory vaccinations is, this is going to help, you know, the herd immunity and all that. It's the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
that collectivist mindset is what concerns me, because Americans are probably like, I don't know if people who are from other countries besides America know how brainwashed Americans are. Like, if you live in another country and you haven't visited the States too much, we have the most unhealthy, indoctrinated, sick, perverted society that you could probably imagine. It's like uh, Sodom and Gomorrah almost, you know. Good people, they'll, you know, loyal, a lot of good attributes. I'm not throwing every American under the bus, but we are incredibly indoctrinated. It starts in school, starts with the media programming. So the level of ignorance is really concerning when it comes to something that affects us all, like mandatory vaccinations and even 5G. People will just be like, oh, well, I'm cool with, some guy commented on one of my YouTube videos saying, I'm okay with 5G if it gives me faster service. And so I said, hold on a sec.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting what freedoms we might give away in exchange for some third dimensional candy, in a way, for what seems to be like, oh, it's an equal exchange, you know. I can do these things with greater ease. And that seemed to be the technological ideas from 1920s, like, oh, I can have, you know, all of these devices, and it makes the housewife's job easier because she can now use the iron and use this and all these devices that we need that electrical grid to plug in.
Yeah, and they've brainwashed everyone into seeing technology as this like ever emerging thing that we're just discovering, and it's only going to get better and enhance our lives. And like, you know, I used to work in San Francisco, and there's just like all these like Silicon Valley yuppies, like uh, who are just so into the tech and wearing their Google glasses and all this stuff that it's like, the heavy mind control that goes into convincing someone that these devices are needed and necessary and everything is appalling. And they've done the same sort of mind control with vaccines, and those things are both coming our way. And so I think it comes back to jurisdiction and status, like I was saying, is if we authenticate our birth certificate, um, we have a way of saying, listen, I'm not under your jurisdiction of USA Inc. I'm not a US citizen. Therefore, I'm not an employee of the United States corporation. Therefore, you cannot do whatever you want to me. I'm not a slave to you. So I think that is a potential solution. And I think it's pretty easy to authenticate your birth certificate. That's one way we could, if they try to mandate shots on us, we can, there's certain language we can use. Everything is language. First there was the word, right? Before anything.
Yes.
And if we know what to say, I think we have a shot of getting out of that stuff, like tyrannical stuff like that other people will blindly go into, and they're going to have to suffer the consequences. If they're for mandatory shots and they're going to shoot up their kids with those vaccines, they're going to have to live with the consequences, unfortunately. You know, it's sad. No one wants to see sick kids or anything like that. But when you put out warnings and you let people know what's in vaccines, and you know, I've done a post on literally vaccine inserts saying these are all the contraindications and these are all the adverse reactions. Like if we put that out and people are still like, oh, I'm still going to do it, like can't help you. But it's ours, as far as the people that want to protect our natural rights of choice and freedom. I think changing status and jurisdiction is big. So that's one thing that we can maybe look at.
How do people do that? I follow Saving Sovereignty, who has a lot of information here
Right,
on Insta, and he speaks about it. I follow Santos Bonacci. I know he went through all sorts of stuff. People
right.
can research that with that. But is there any link or lead that you can even just plant with us now to put us in that direction to explore?
Yeah, I'm going to do more on that. I'm just focused on getting my taxes done in lawful money. I'm not sure if you're familiar with lawful money, but once I get my taxes done in lawful money, then I'm going to focus on authenticating the birth certificate. And then we're also waiting on issuing a notice of liability, which is another solution. The notice of liability for 5G is holding these city council, these officials who are letting 5G go up in our neighborhoods, is holding them accountable and saying, you're everything is commerce, everything is admiralty law. This whole everything is based on international Roman maritime admiralty law, the law of the seas. So everything is contract, right? Everything is contract. So when our city council has an agenda item, and it says on there that they're going to put up new telecommunications, small cells, 5G in these areas, that's their offer to us. And if we accept that offer tacitly and don't do anything, no one shows up at the meeting, no one issues a notice of liability, no one says no, it's assumed that we're agreeing to that and we're okay with it. That's how this whole thing works, is our silence is consent. And so if we are going to look at holding these people accountable with a counter offer and saying, I don't consent to that, here's why, here's all the health risks and the harm that's already peer reviewed and shown through, the NTP, various studies, thousands of studies, right? So if we do that counteroffer and begin to hold them liable, that's the solution right there. These people might start thinking twice about approving this stuff if they know that they're going to be held personally liable and owe a lot of money if the stuff actually happens. It's just a lot to understand because we haven't been raised on not that the knowledge of admiralty law and contracts and commerce is boring. Like I try reading all this legalese stuff and it literally puts me to sleep. Like I'm just like, oh my God, I can't stand it. But sometimes we have to play by their rules. This is a Vatican and Crown run world, and they operate off of admiralty law and contracts. And so that's one thing. So I'm just going to, lawful money is basically not endorsing the Federal Reserve. When you get paid, if someone writes you a check or directly deposits money into your account and you just put it in there or sign your name on the back, you're endorsing the Federal Reserve because those are Federal Reserve notes. So what lawful money is it's saying there's a certain endorsement language you put on the back. It says, per United States Code 12, Section 411, all redeemed in lawful money per USC 12 USC Section 411, which states that lawful money can be redeemed. You can redeem your Federal Reserve notes in lawful money, which is backed by gold and silver. And so when you do that, it's not a taxable event. So the Fed can't come in and take a third of your wages.
Well, that's a big one right there.
Right.
I didn't know that.
There's solutions. There's solutions. They wrote it into, there's congressional remedies. It seems like there's a remedy for everything. It's just a matter of discovering it and utilizing it. And so it's just really hard because throughout our day-to-day life, we're not given enough time. I mean, I barely have enough time to I can't even check my direct messages because I have like work to do. And then I have family and posts. And then I try to read all this stuff at night and I just fall asleep to it. So
Right.
I think if we can focus on the solutions, maybe I'll do a post soon on what I see as like, here's the 10 solutions that we can focus on for the time being. And there'll be more like physical stuff, not like metaphysical, spiritual stuff. Just like, here's 10 physical things that we can do that will enhance our ability to obtain freedom. And I think one of them is, we're all in this debt slavery thing through the Federal Reserve. And if we start redeeming our income in lawful money, We're not endorsing that Federal Reserve. Our income's not taxable. We can keep our money. We're not debt slaves. Um, you know, a lot of us are now struggling with this COVID-19, people are going out of business, people can't work, you know, so it's like they're financially attacking us. Um, and if we redeem in lawful money, we at least kind of stand a chance to get our you know, a third of our income back. So that's one thing. And then authenticating the birth certificate, and then the notice of liability with 5G. It's just a lot of this stuff is kind of boring, and you have to really have a lot of patience, and you have to research a lot. Um,
Yeah.
and like we've talked about, I think growing your own food, you try to find an organic community garden near you, or grow food in a yard. Talk to neighbors. If you don't have a community organic garden, um, talk to neighbors and see if they would be interested in starting one. And then you can go look for plots around your town, and that are nice open area where there's no obstruction from the sun. So it'll get like nice sun the whole day. Um, you know, we need to be more self-sufficient, you know, learn how to handle a firearm. You know, I don't know if you have a gun or not. I know you work out to tool, and and you know, so you're kind of a badass that way. But as far as like, there's just certain things that we need to like, if we focus on doing, we'll be more self-sufficient. And some of it's financial, some of it's food, some of it is holding other people accountable, and some of it's protecting ourselves from radiation. There are
It's a
solutions. It's
yeah, and
multidimensional.
it is,
Yeah.
it's multidimensional. And I feel like it is a mind, body, spirit, emotional. It's like and it's taking care of all of those fractals, and, you know, creating the connections between them. But yeah, I know this stuff is so thick and it's so deep, and it's because we haven't been educated about this stuff. And so it is a new language as well, whether it's the 5G stuff is a new language, which I want to just double back for one split second here in a moment,
Yeah.
or this idea, even about just chi or prana or orgone is a new language, you know, and
Yeah.
then never mind this, like, what, the Vatican owns me through my birth certificate? You know, that's a whole other level of stuff. And again, it can just blow people's minds if they haven't explored, because this is something I wanted to say in the
Okay.
first section, that just about 5G and the coronavirus is
Okay.
that, and I don't even know if it's even still up on Google anymore, because they're, you know, sweeping everything out. But to my awareness of what I had learned is that China was the first place in the world where they had really installed 5G, which is like every 5 or 10 feet you need a device
Right.
there. And that was the first place that they actually plugged it in and turned it on, and the turning on of it just happened to coincide something like within the 24, 48 hours of the same time that when the virus started, when the Wuhan thing, when all that started. And so I just, for people who are new or where this information is kind of like blowing their minds, just to, again, do your research and understand that there's this connection between our health and between, you know, what is being implanted around us. And I wrote a book called The Reiki Apprentice. And back when I lived in New York, I was full on conspiracy theorist. I was in a rock band with dreadlocks, and I would actually stop the gig in the middle. The guys used to crack up, but they were cool. I'd stop the gig in the middle of the show, and I'd hand out a petition for people to sign, like, against the GMO stuff. It was like just 20 years ago, but I was all up in that. And I remember being on the subway in New York, and just some of those screeching wheels, it would just be deafening. And I remember standing up and being like, "They're killing us slowly." You know, it's like, does anyone get it? Sort of like feeling that a degree of that frustration that I hear, you know, coming through you a little bit. Um, but then, you know, I found yoga and Reiki, and it kind of just really helped to give me an expanded awareness. And it actually helped me to come into my power by healing my life. So we get back into the trauma sort of aspect about it. And I feel that that's what's happening through this unraveling of all this information, all this disclosure. And, you know, because as many people as we might perceive as are asleep, there's like multiples of them that are on the borderline of waking up, that are waking up, and that are like ready for these kind of conversations, so that they can, you know, they're seeking information. They don't understand the language maybe yet completely or whatever, but they're like, okay, just, I want to watch the video, I want to just be informed and get on board with this, because we're ready. I feel like there's a huge part of our collective that is ready for this conversation. And so, I appreciate what you're saying, that we get to look at all of these aspects. Bottom line, eating diet, healthy, taking care of body, mind, spirit, getting into Orgonite if that's, calls you. But then there's all these third dimensional things that really are going to help to shift this in a very dynamic way for the greater whole. But it is, as you were saying, like, it's all in our individual hands. Like, no one's going to really do it for us, and we get to be active, and participate in the ways that we can or are guided to help create that change, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
All we can do is like you said, hold the light and be like examples, and just try to make like our life an example of maybe ways that can, open the eyes and hearts of other people. Um, there was someone that commented that said that the government's got too much power, we're done for. Um, yeah, I mean, you could say that. You could say that. You could also say that people are waking up at a rapid pace, and you could also say, like Deb Tavares' husband, that the state of inertia is too far set in most people. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But I'm not going to go out without a fight, and I'm not going to go out doing everything in my power to preserve my rights and liberties in my families, and to promote that for other people as well. Um, and so, like I said, there's a lot of different multidimensional facets to this, and I think the hopefully all this tyranny that's happening is opening the eyes of people. Um, Again, Sarah, my partner, being a nurse, she knows people in that profession. She also knows officers, and they say that they are a little bit surprised about how far the government's pushing this. So I think there's certain components of people who haven't been awake to this stuff might be awakening to this stuff. So I'm going to post more on this David Icke interview. And we really just need to continue sharing information with the way they're censoring, and just continue to really open more people's eyes. That's one thing we can do. Um, but yeah, it
let
looks like there is a link between the radiation and the fear that they're causing. It is causing people's cells to um, be more susceptible, to something like this, to illness and disease. It's just the fear they're pumping out is unbelievable.
Daddy, my tooth fell out.
Oh, your tooth fell out? Nice.
Wow.
Finally, that thing's been hanging on for dear life. You okay? Come here. Come here. She had like a tooth that was like just hanging for weeks.
Wow.
Anyways,
It's a big, wow, look at that. That's a big deal. I understand a few tears being shed. That's okay.
My mom
It's a big
said,
change.
my mom said it's gonna be there for a few weeks.
you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we all get to go through that. You're transitioning, and that's a big deal to lose a tooth.
You're okay. You'll be
Yeah.
okay. You'll be okay. All right.
Yeah.
You want to go back? You give me a kiss? Okay. All right. Thanks for telling me. You're gonna be okay, Mimo.
I understand. That's kind of your child. It's frightening. A part of your body, even though you're told your teeth fall, you get new ones, but that's kind of like, whoa, when it actually happens. So blessings to her. Oh. I want to come back in on this medical passport that Bill Gates is trying to push, this RFID chip in the vaccination, this whole story, because I know this is blowing a lot of people's minds. This is something as well. I remember having David Icke books when I used to work at the Bodhi Tree bookstore in LA when I was in my 20s, 20 something years ago. And, I mean, and he's been talking about this forever. And I know we've mentioned him a few times, so I want to invite people to go. It's David Icke, ICKE. I believe it's just that, his name.com. And his recent video that's very controversial, that's been taken off of online all over the place, except for his website. At least I saw it last night, so it's still up as far as I know. So you can go there if you're interested in finding out about that. But there's this whole story though about how they are using this corona experience to generate the fear, to generate the passage of this passing this Marshall vaccination, this Marshall-y, like where we need to take it. And Third Eye Opener, I follow him, and he posted something. Even this was like 2 weeks ago, where Trump had actually signed something that said, like, yeah, we're going to make it this like martial law where we're going to have to be vaccinated, you know, and but they're using this coronavirus as the linchpin and the reasoning why. But that also, if we don't get vaccinated, that we won't be able to travel, like that we'll have certain liberties taken away, or that we won't be able to do certain things. And isn't that just bizarro? You know, okay, so there's the satellites, the 5G. Elon Musk has been putting up all these satellites and whatever other powers that be that are beaming the 5G down here, as well as all these towers going up. And it's creating this, oh, shoot, now I just lost my train of thought. It'll come back. Oh, the Neuralink thing with Elon Musk. You know about that? So I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, you know, I feel that the chemtrails, that's actually, it's in the food. That's a substratum of that. Now that was my little mind going there of like, we're already like, we got that fucking thing inside of us. And it's, you know, through the chemical, through the metals and whatnot. And yet what I feel intuitively very strongly is that, again, if we continue to create the correct conditions, mind, body, emotion, spirit, that we won't turn it on. I feel like it has to use the human component of fear, of whatever that is, to turn it on, so that we will be plugged into that to a degree. What are your feelings about that? Do you think there's a connection with the chems and this Neuralink situation, where it's like, I'll explain for a second. So they were experimenting years ago with what's that called? With a syringe, placing in this neural net, sort of a mesh, into a mouse, and experimenting and seeing how they could control the mouse, and the mouse is functioning, mental and physical and stuff, from a distance, non-locally, and really manipulating the mouse. And it said that, you know, this is where we're going, and that they're not just using Google and stuff to like sell us shoes or t-shirts, but that what they're doing is, you know, with every freaking device that's watching us everywhere, that they are using it for a deeper level to really study how our neurological reasoning it takes place. And they're using that then for those D-Wave, the subset AI computer technology. And I know David Icke was speaking on this, that eventually then everything is going to be AI. And isn't it interesting that everyone's businesses are going down, to be replaced by what? We'll see, if at all. And so anyway, there's a lot there, but I just want to sort of knock that over to you and see if you want to chime in.
The way that they can alter our reality just like that is really kind of mind-boggling. They can just do this whole COVID thing, and instantly our society is changed forever. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to go back to, it's, you know, it's pre-COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah.
And so they're going to continue using this as plausible deniability to do other things. Oh, we have to protect public health. We have to give you your shots to protect public health. We got to do this to protect public health. Everything's to protect public health.
Right.
And I think people, if people can just get the knowledge that we don't need them to protect our health, we can take care of our own health, and get an elevator speech as far as what happened here, really happened with this COVID thing, and get people informed, so when they're talking with others, they don't get stuck and they know what to say. Like, well, actually, this is the truth with the COVID thing, and I am able to take care of my own immune and lymphatic system by doing X, Y, Z. So I don't need your help. And then if you can also say, plus I'm not under your jurisdiction, so you have no sort of authority over me. I think if we can get to that point, so I'm constantly taking notes. Like, I took notes on all Ike's lecture, and I can rattle off some stuff if people would like that. But I think that's one thing that works for me, is just get an elevator speech down as to why you do not need or consent to any of these shenanigans. at all. Um, because they're going to continue to just do shit like this and just, you know, try to act like everything's to make our lives better, um, as they depopulate us and tell us that basically they want to cut down the population. And so they're starting with a lot of the elderly, and then now they're putting 5G in schools, and they really want to damage the next generations. So that's why they're putting 5G in schools and doing the mandatory vaccinations for kids to get into school and stuff. You know, they're about as evil as it gets, right? You know, um, so I just think those of us who are aware of what's going on just need to continue sharing knowledge and and making sure we know people are up to speed on what's happening. So I'm going to post this next video on Ike talking about Elon Musk. You know, I bet you if you ask anyone on the street if Elon Musk is like a good guy or whatever, just like the same with Bill Gates or anyone, they'll be like, oh yeah, he's the guy doing the SpaceX stuff. Yeah, it's just we're starved for knowledge. We're starved for knowledge. We're starved for self-sufficiency, and I think it's just a matter of getting out the right information to people and empowering them with knowledge so they can not be reliant on government for anything. And what they're doing right now is trying to make it so we are reliant on them for everything. So they're starving us financially. They're putting people out of business, and they're continuing to dumb people down with propaganda. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But I think I think there's hope for a lot of us to get out of this matrix in one piece. Um, and
In one piece. I like that, like as one, you know.
yeah, and
I,
we just have to figure it out. It's really challenging because so many people. We really need to like dissolve the ego. Um, a lot of people I know, I feel like, or not people I know, but just the kind of the energy from people is that they hate learning new stuff. They feel like they know it all. And I think if you're just humble and you're like, listen, I grew up in this matrix too. I don't know shit. The more I know, the more I uncover, the more I realize I don't know shit. Um, and there's always more to learn, and there's always more room for growth. If we can just come from a place of humility and like, and not battling each other online, or you know, like I get into it with Carnus all the time just because I'm so passionate about it. But it's like that at the end of the day, we're better off just saying let's agree to disagree. I don't think we're ever going to agree, and let's move on. Much love. You know what I mean? Like if we just all could do that, like let's focus on solutions on what we can do. Like if you eat meat, okay, I disagree. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think it's good for the animals or the environment, but I think you should focus on these. Here's some good fruits and vegetables that you should maybe try to incorporate in your diet a little bit. Much love. Like there's that certain thing that's I can do. That's something that I can do. I can give my neighbors, Orgonite and tell them what it is. And then I could show them the readings from their smart meter. I can give them vegetables. I think there's little ways that we can all be better people. And it's just a matter of like dissolving the ego and just coming from a place of humility and gratitude. But it's really hard because there's so many triggers out there. There's so many things that trigger us and
well, and that's why I was
hard.
saying that yeah, that's why I feel like it's really a strong period of time right now in the collective. What I get is that there's a timeline split between the 3D matrix and this fourth dimensional, this Christ consciousness that's coming in. And there's no future because we're making it up as we go, and by choosing the path of love to create that ladder of ascension, I feel like we've gone down the rabbit hole. And sure, there's more rabbit holes to go to, but for a collective of us, we've gone down the rabbit hole so far, and we just already know. We're just like, okay, now it's time to like go back up through the ladder of ascension and to bridge that way to that higher knowledge, that higher wisdom that operates beyond the matrix, that gives us that divine, intuition and insight that is not the normal thinking, as it were. I want to double back a second. I know you said you had notes you want to share, and I'd love for you to still share them if you have them. But as far as that question, what's that?
Here's another thought. Another thought is okay. When you delve into the lower frequencies of ego and battling and division and all that, I think that your body releases like a fight or flight kind of thing. And I think that's the acidity, and that's the damaged cells that we're talking about that make you more susceptible to disease and everything like that. Like I feel it when I battle with people. I get this like fight or flight thing. You know, my heart starts beating more and everything. And I think if we can just like stay away from that and just say this is not good for my health, so I'm not going to feed that. That's one thing we can do. It's just really hard, you know, because we're raised in this like duality matrix where it's like, you know, like I grew up playing sports and it's like me versus him. I'm better than you. I'm trying to constantly beat you, you know, and unfortunately, most people are like that, you know, and if you go out in society and someone gives you bad vibes, what's your initial instinct? F you, I'm gonna give you bad vibes too, you know. I'm stronger, smarter, better than you. It's just like, I don't know. There's just so much ego, and I think that's one thing we can do is just try to dissolve the ego a little bit more each day, and just come from a place of humility and not battling with people, and just say this isn't good for my health, so I'm not going to give it any more of my energy. Take a couple of deep breaths and move on. Let's focus on
Yeah.
sharing knowledge. So okay,
It's very powerful because I feel that we give our power away. We give our peace, our center away.
Right.
We react.
Right.
And it's just, it's on bullshit stories in our consciousness and our subconscious or something that we just haven't resolved, or we haven't decided consciously. I don't need to respond to that. I don't need to even think that take it personal in any way at all. And I really appreciate what you're saying, but that's like a daily practice.
That's one thing we can all do. What can we all do on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
We can do that. Just one thing, you know, and then focus on the next thing. So I'll try to do a post soon when I get some time on just like, here's something we can all do every day. Yeah. It's just, it's easier said than done. But here's some, I'm not sure when this is going to cut off for us. Probably going to cut off soon. And if it does
cut off. What time is it actually? Do you know? I don't have a.
Yeah. We're going to get cut off soon, but I'll save both of these. So if you guys want to watch these, and I'll try to do a screen recording. And yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing is if they divide us in different ways, then we're easier to conquer. And right now we are at the precipice. We're at the gates where they are trying to conquer us on every level, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically. And it sounds cliche to come together, but like one thing we can do is just stop battling with people online. Stop taking everything. Stop getting into that fight or flight thing where your body is like, you know, like it's a lower frequency. It's a lower frequency, and that's one thing we can do.
And I think it's easier to do that when we're surrounded by orgonite, when we meditate, when we have the right diet, because we're not in that fight or flight. We're not in that lower frequency. When we create the correct conditions within ourselves, then it is easier to be more gentle, to be that higher version of ourselves. So in case we do get cut off, I do want to say thank you for all this time, all this information. I really appreciate it. I know our communities are really appreciative. So please share with us your notes, what you have there.
Just, you know, talking about the COVID-19 test kits, like, first of all, they're very generic. My partner Sarah's a nurse, and she said when they got the test kits, they're like, this is test for just anything. So they're very generic, excuse me. You know, 80 to 83% of the tests were giving false positives. But the thing to understand really is what Ike said about when a cell is poisoned, it secretes what's called an exosome. This poisoning can be from many different things: stress, fear, toxicity, EMF, food, etc. And so under the microscope, these exosomes, this is something our cells release saying there's danger. It's part of the natural immune function. Under the microscope, they look identical to COVID-19. So anytime someone's got damaged cell under the microscope, they could just say, oh, you got COVID-19. So we don't want to damage ourselves. Dr. Sebi also said that a virus does not exist, but it's rather a manifestation caused by cell erosion. In other words, an exosome. This manifestation of cell erosion, or an exosome, is caused by mucus. Mucus is caused by the foods that you eat. So the food that they told us to eat that will produce mucus in us will basically cause these exosomes that are identical.
The food pyramid, the meat, the dairy, all that.
Yeah, like even some grains. Like I eat grains once in a while, but I understand that they're acidic too. So we want to stay away from acidic stuff, you know, as best as we can. And so this PCR test, that the creator of this PCR test said, don't ever use this test to identify any sort of, like, you know, that we're looking at, like a pathogen or you know, a disease. And it doesn't also, the test doesn't show you how much of the virus you have. It might just pick up on a little bit. Oh, COVID-19. You know, and you have to have like a lot of it to affect you. Like we all have different viruses in our body at any different time, and we're constantly, the healthier our immune and lymph system is, we're not going to be affected by it. You know, that most of the people that are diagnosed with COVID-19 show absolutely no symptoms because they probably have a stronger immune system and lymph system. You know, so they're able
Well,
to.
and if I may, I'm sorry, yes, it's we all have cancer cells too, but we
Yeah,
don't necessarily have cancer.
right.
So it's
It's the
like you
same
can,
thing.
so that's like what you're saying. A certain activation has to happen,
Yeah,
acidity or, you know, all this stuff for it to then become that.
right.
But yeah, it's that same idea.
Yeah, the mucus in the city. So acidic conditions, cancer cells grow. You know, Otto Warburg, Nobel Prize winner, 1931, he found that. Um, so solutions: load up on vitamin A, C, and D. Okay, so vitamin A, you can get sweet potatoes. So vitamin A is, you want to focus on carotenoids. Okay, your body can produce vitamin A from carotenoids found in plants. Okay, so you don't need to eat animals for vitamin A. Sweet potatoes, winter squash, kale, collards, turnip greens, carrots, sweet peppers, red peppers, Swiss chard, spinach, romaine lettuce. Okay, so that's your vitamin A. Focus on those. Get your vitamin A. Vitamin D, go get your sunlight. Just get out in the sun when you can. I know they're doing a lot of chemtrail spraying. Get out in the sun, take off your shirt, ground, get some sun, get your vitamin D. Okay, so we got vitamin A, we got vitamin D. Vitamin C is easy. It's found in plants, only found in plants. Kiwis, citrus fruits, berries. Drink some superfood shakes. Get your water clean. Vitamin A, C, and D have an elevator speech for to say to people who are like, well, we need to get our shots to be healthy. Like, no, I focus on my immune system, my lymph system. I get the stages of ingestion, absorption, elimination, digestion. I focus on those and being happy and not watching TV and getting sun and A and C and D. So I don't need your vaccines. I'm healthy. So that's the little elevator speech of why we don't need that. And why we don't need to be concerned or in a fearful state and walking around with a mask and gloves like most people are doing, is just focus on your health, A, C, and D, zinc, you know, minerals, getting a lot of minerals. That's why I do the oros. Some people do shilajit. Yeah, get the minerals, you know, be around organite, be around stuff from the earth. It's simple. It's simple. Continue sharing knowledge. Try to find a garden to grow your own food. Learn how to handle a shotgun, and make friends with your neighbors. And don't take things personally online. And it's not all about you and your ego. And just be humble and be grateful. And if we can all focus on those things, I think we'll be better people.
Mm, amen. Beautiful, beautifully said. Yeah. Yep.
So it's not like
It's alchemy.
it's not rocket science. Like the answers are there for us. We don't need their drugs. We don't need their pharmaceutical drugs. We don't need their fake ass medicine. We don't need their lies, and we don't need to subscribe to any of that. And people need to be not afraid to voice that, not afraid to say that to people. People are afraid of like, oh gosh, I don't want to be seen as the nut job, or you know, I feel like people just need to be empowered and have courage to speak up, and they need that little elevator speech. So take notes on things you're learning. Be like, oh yeah, and then study that, and then tell people that, and say, well, this is why I'm not concerned, and you shouldn't be concerned either. And just being in a fearful place produces, you know, has an acidic reaction in your body, and that can lead to cancer cells growing. And if you're putting these foods in your body, that's going to create mucus and your cells are going to be damaged. And then you might test positive for COVID-19, but you didn't really have it. You just had damaged cells because you weren't taking care of your health. So if there's any, you know, guiding light here, something to focus on, it's like maybe people focus on their health a little bit more now. And instead
Yeah,
of
mind, body, spirit.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. I did have a vision though of like of those that are awakened to this stuff, that there could be this like massive shifting point. It was this crazy vision where we all just busted out of our houses and came together, and we're just like, fuck this, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's like, oh my God, but you're not 6 feet apart and you're not wearing masks. And but where it, I don't know, it just seemed wild, but where there was just like millions of people coming out of their houses and coming together and just like saying like, no, we see you. We
Yeah,
see through this.
that's what, if someone, how do we go about coordinating that? I don't know, because we have the numbers. Um, that's one thing that I would like to do somehow, but I don't know how to get there. It is to
I feel it's up to spirit, though. I feel that leaving it in spirit, in God, and in Creator's hands, that's the key. And then being on standby. And then if you're guided to kind of tell your neighbors or your friends or people that would be interested. But I feel that there's a divine appointment in that we can't try to control. That there would have to be a divine alignment that would help hold that space for whatever, because if that was really going to happen, and that was just a little bloop vision that came in my meditation recently, and I was like, damn, okay, but I'll hold space for that. That it's like, oh, that would be a supernatural thing, because I think it would really blow the people who believe the media, that would blow their minds, but it would also be a wakey call of like, oh, wait, there's this amount of people that aren't buying into this. There's this amount of people, they're that close, they're breathing on each other or whatever. Because this whole separation and isolation thing is training people.
Yep.
Training people. And like they're saying, this is just